Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I am the Divine One and I'm bringing you yet another assortment. Well, here we go again. Another one bites the MAGA dust, and this time it's none other than Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, the former co-chair of Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, or as I like to call it, because it's, let's be real, it's giving very much cryptocurrency energy, unstable, unreliable, and full of inflated hype. Just like Trump's meme coin people just lost thousands on. It was a rug pull. Anywho, so what happened to Mr. Bollywood? You ask, spoiler alert, the Leopards have eaten him alive. Why is he suddenly out of Trump's orbit and scrambling to run for governor of Ohio? And what lessons can we learn from this delicious political drama? In today's video, we're breaking down how MAGA turned on Vivek and why the model minority myth is nothing but a trap, and how this whole situation is a reminder that some tables you're invited to sit at are actually serving you as a main course. Grab your chair and have a seat. The leopards are feasting yet again, so I know this one is going to be juicy. Let's go.
Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
The most important thing that can happen for the United States of America this year is the re-election of Donald Trump as the 47th president of the United States. But I see that victory not as a destination, but as the start line. The real destination is reviving this country. The early wins that he can deliver, boy, would they save this country, and they don't even require Congress, really. It's a tale of two mass deportations. The first is actually sealing our own border and deporting anybody who's in this country illegally. There are tens, note the plural, tens of millions of illegal migrants in the United States of America right now who haven't been vetted. That is a formula for a national disaster unless we do something about it. Use our military to seal the border, deport anybody who's in this country illegally, end birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal migrants, and then stop funding sanctuary cities that fund the breakage of the rule of law, and stop funding Central American countries, at least until each of those countries has built their own border barricades, all the way from the southern border of Texas down to the northern border of Venezuela. That's how we're going to actually solve that first problem. It's a tale of two mass deportations. That's the first one. But don't forget the second one. The second one is a mass deportation of millions of federal bureaucrats out of the D.C. bureaucracy. That is how you drain the swamp. We can get serious this time around. Take government agencies that should not exist. Get in there and actually shut them down. Fire millions of federal bureaucrats. Rescind thousands upon thousands of federal regulations that failed the Supreme Court's test in West Virginia versus EPA. Put limits, 8 years, for how long many of these federal bureaucrats can actually serve. These are real changes that bring back our constitutional republic with 3 branches of government rather than 4, the unconstitutional administrative state. So that's pretty simple action. Deport millions of illegals out of the country, deport millions of federal bureaucrats working in an unconstitutional federal bureaucracy out of Washington, D.C. Do those 2 things. That's the beginning of how we get this country back. And the beauty of it is, the new president can get that done without asking Congress for permission or for forgiveness. And believe me, that's going to unite Americans across this country, regardless of their race, their gender, their sexual orientation, or even their party. The idea that the people who we elect to run our government should actually run our government. And the idea that our country runs on the basis of the rule of law, where you can enter this country through the front door legally, but you can't do it through the back door illegally. Most Americans I know believe in that regardless of their partisan affiliation. Success is going to be our vengeance. Success is what's going to unite this country. And the beauty is we have the chance to get started without running through the morass of Congress and actually use the Article 2 power vested in the U.S. president and the executive branch to do it. All we need to do to get there is to elect Donald Trump as the next president.
You've said you would fire over half of the government's workers.
That's correct.
You would close the education department, other departments?
Yeah, I would shut down the U.S. Department of Education, not because I'm anti-education, but because I am pro-education. And the federal government has no business in education that should be administered locally, and there's a lot of things wrong with that.
What other agencies?
I'd shut down.
I mean, if you're going to fire more than half the government workers,
yeah, so
it's big cuts.
Yes, so in the Federal Reserve, I wouldn't shut down the Federal Reserve. I'd just lay off over 90% of the people working there. There's over 22,000 people in the U.S. Federal Reserve System now. We need less than 2,000 if its scope goes back to stabilizing the US dollar, scope of focus. The FBI, a politicized government agency, in that case, we do need federal law enforcement. But the culture of that agency has become so corrupt that you're not going to fix it top down. You have to do it bottom up. And you can't do it bottom up without actually closing down the current FBI and creating something new to take its place.
A new, smaller agency?
Exactly. A leaner, fit-for-purpose agency that respects the Constitution and the law rather than making it up as it goes along, which is what today's
What about
FBI
the
is.
housing department, agriculture department, labor department?
Yeah, we're evaluating. I mean, a lot of those are on the potential chop block. We're 7 weeks into this campaign, but the agencies have identified that we would shut down and stay shut down, include the U.S. Department of Education, and then a long list of other agencies that will need to be shut down and possibly have something rebuilt to take their place.
My full interview with Vivek Ramaswamy about his campaign, free speech, and why he'd give up a useful career to do something as useless as politics is at johnstossel.com.
A few moments later.
Vivek Ramaswamy might be stepping away from Doge in an announcement that I think that a lot of people were kind of really confused about right now. This information is coming from CBS News that states here that he, remember, was going to be alongside Elon Musk with the Department of Government Efficiency, aka Doge, is expected to step away soon because he wants to announce a campaign to run for the governor of Ohio. CBS doesn't actually list their source here, but they say here people close to Musk have privately undercut Vivek for weeks, frustrated with his lack of participation in the heavy lifting. And according to sources familiar with the internal dynamics, there has been friction between them. One person close to Trump, once again unnamed here, says that Vivek has worn out his welcome. Vivek actually sat down with the sitting governor of Ohio to talk about the now Senate seat that's left open now that J.D. Vance is the vice president. Well, on Friday, the governor of Ohio announced someone else would be taking that seat. That would be the lieutenant governor. My question for you is, do you trust Elon just running Doge by himself? Do you think Elon would actually keep that position? Let me know in the comment section below and be sure to follow me for more.
We have some major news. Donald Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, is already collapsing as one of its main members is leaving the group. Vivek Ramaswamy is expected to soon step away from the task force, CBS News has learned. This whole DOGE thing is a fake government agency that was supposed to be run by Elon Musk and Ramaswamy, but people close to Musk have privately undercut Ramaswamy for weeks, frustrated with his lack of participation in the heavy lifting. According to sources familiar with the matter, there has been friction between the incoming rank-and-file DOGE staff and Ramaswamy, and he has subtly been encouraged to exit. One person close to Donald Trump said, Vivek has worn out his welcome. So it really seems like things are not going to plan for Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Ramaswamy, and this whole DOGE nonsense. As Democrats were warning before the election, we could have seen this coming. If TikTok gets banned, my Instagram, my YouTube, my Substack are all linked in my bio. It'd mean a lot if you would go follow over there as well.
And about 70% of those federal government employees work in what we would consider the national security agencies. So most of those are at DOD, Intel, et cetera, et cetera. How low do you want to go and where are you going to cut?
And I want to emphasize the individual federal employees are mostly not bad people, actually, because most human beings are not bad people. To the contrary, most people who are federal employees are doing what they do because they believe they're serving their country, and I respect that. And I think most of those federal employees, all of them, deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, no matter what changes are made. but I actually think it will happen to improve the productivity of the United States and our economic pie as a whole, because I don't believe that the highest and best use of any of those talented people is what they're doing in the federal government today, much of which even the Supreme Court tells us is outside of what's lawful in the federal government. And so I think that this is going to be a positive development both for the economy as a whole, both for compliance with what our Constitution actually says is permissible to be done or not by the federal bureaucracy. But I'm hopeful it's going to be even good for many of the individuals who may make a transition from government service back to the private sector.
So Trump has not even been inaugurated. It is the 19th, the day before inauguration, and there's already a big shakeup. DOGE, remember DOGE? It was the two main players were Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Well, guess what? CBS News is reporting that Vivek Ramaswamy is heading out the door before they've even gotten started. Apparently, I think it comes down to they weren't seeing eye to eye, who knows what. But so right now it's just Elon Musk in DOGE, and I'm sure there's some smaller players, but it was going to be the two of them, but apparently they are not getting along, not seeing eye to eye. I think words have been exchanged that Vivek wasn't involved enough. I think that's why you notice you haven't been hearing anything about him. So Vivek Ramaswamy is out. It'll probably be official in the next couple of days, but CBS News already reported it.
So, I guess we're not losing our veteran benefits to Vivek and DOGE since he's on the way out. Even though we were fear-mongering and talking so much about all the things that were not even official. Let's cross bridges when we get there. Let's have a plan, but cool, calm, and collective. And let's stop scaring veterans with dumbass information with no foundation. It's going to be an interesting 4 years.
The Leopards feast again. Yes, they do. This MAGA civil war is quite entertaining. So, Vivek thought he could out MAGA and stay cozy in Trump's new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. But surprise, the man just got his marching orders. The same leopards he cheered for are crunching and munching on him now. And you know what? They're saying delicious. When you cozy up to a movement built on exclusion, you shouldn't be shocked when they eventually exclude you. You see, Donald Trump said if it ain't snowing, he ain't going. Okay, that's why his cabinet looks the way that it does. That's why the House Republican leadership and the Senate Republican leadership and all of their chair positions, that's why it looks the way that it does. All I see is a confederacy of illiterate, mediocre white people. I don't understand why people did not get the memo from the 2024 campaign. Everything was pretty clear, and Trump was definitely, his intentions were just like his hair, very transparent. You may have intentionally misunderstood the political dynamics at the time, but you're certainly seeing the results. But I digress. Vivek's co-leadership in DOGE was doomed from the start. It was a PR stunt, a feel-good diversity 2 months in, and Trump has already pulled the rug out from under him. Why? Because the leopards always eat their own. That's why. A recipe for betrayal is what it was. Let's set the table. Let's set the scene. Donald Trump was inaugurated just today. And let's just say the vibes were awkward as Melania tried to get Donald to touch a Bible. Spoiler, he didn't, probably because he was scared of it bursting into flames. Meanwhile, our boy Vivek, looking every bit. The picture of betrayal was quietly shown the door at DOGE. Why? Because the MAGA ecosystem doesn't do sharing. Co-directors of a governmental department, please. That was a feel-good stunt, and we all knew it. Elon Musk Ever the opportunist has now claimed the throne at Doge, leaving Vic scrambling for his next move. And what's that next move? Child, he's running for governor in Ohio, the same Ohio where immigrant communities face constant harassment, from whispers about eating dogs and cats to outright racial violence. Vivek's fatal mistake, speaking truth to MAGA. The moment Vivek dared to speak up about American laziness and the need for foreign-born talent, I knew the clock was ticking. Remember when Vivek told Republican voters that Americans are lazy? That's why companies import H-1B visa workers, because y'all are watching 90210 and eating bonbons while engineers from India are out here innovating. He didn't just say the quiet part out loud, he screamed it. And MAGA voters, ever sensitive to being called out, were not having it. MAGA doesn't want to hear that their entitlement and mediocre work ethic are the root of their problems, and not black and brown people. Well, really, we heard more about black people, DEI and woke and CRT and all the usual boogeyman. But let's delve deeper into Vivek Ramaswamy's thought processes. As an entrepreneur and political commentator, he has been vocal about his views on issues such as woke culture, diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, affirmative action, and critical race theory, CRT. His comments often reflect a critique of what he sees as the overreach of progressive ideologies in corporate and educational environments. Let's take it step by step. Woke culture. Ramaswamy has criticized the rise of woke culture, which he defines as an excessive focus on identity politics, victimhood, and social justice. He argues that it undermines meritocracy, fosters division, and distracts from more pressing national news. He believes that people should be judged on their individual character and abilities rather than their identity or group affiliations. Number 2, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. Ramaswamy has expressed skepticism toward DEI initiatives, viewing them as counterproductive and often based on principles that enforce conformity rather than promoting genuine inclusion. He argues that such initiatives often prioritizes race or identity over merit. There we go with merit again, huh? And can create a sense of division rather than unity. He contends that these policies in hiring and education can lead to reverse discrimination, diminishing the emphasis on competence and achievement. Affirmative action. Oh yeah, he certainly is very vocal, isn't he? Ramaswamy is critical of affirmative action too, especially in education and hiring, where it's used to promote diversity through race-based criteria. He believes that it leads to preferential treatment of certain racial or ethnic groups over others. He means black, undermining fairness and the principles of equal opportunity. He argues that affirmative action should be abolished in favor of a system that focuses on individual merit, not race. The leopards are feasting, huh? And critical race theory. Now, you'll have to pardon me, but I have listened to this man exhaustively talk about critical race theory, and no one has ever asked him, did you read it? Ramaswamy is a vocal opponent of critical race theory, which explores the ways in which race and racism intersect with social, political, and legal systems. He has argued that CRT is divisive and promotes a narrative of victimhood. He believes that it teaches children to view everything through the lens of race and class, thereby fostering resentment and division rather than unity. Ramaswamy has called for a national push to ban CRT from being taught in schools, emphasizing that it is harmful ideology. Meanwhile, here in reality, CRT was a college level course. It was never taught in high school or the other schools, junior high and so forth and so on. I mean, white supremacy doesn't have to lift a finger when you have people like Vivek over here, right? Overall, Ramaswamy's stance on these topics align with a broader conservative critique of progressive cultural movement, advocating for policies and systems that emphasize individualism, merit, and equal treatment over race-conscious initiatives. Well, let's just look at how the tables turn, because a lot of the people that are in Trump's cabinet and his hires, those weren't the people we saw. We saw Representative Byron Donald, okay? We saw Senator Tim High Jump Gum Scott, okay? We seen Vivek, we seen Candace Owens. So my question is, what positions do they have in the Trump administration? I think, at this point, they can't even get maybe a bellhop, or maybe I don't even think they can get a maid position. Maybe a doorman. No, already taken. Yes, this is what you get, okay? When you try to scapegoat black people, when when you try to gaslight black people and you act as an agent of white supremacy, you get treated like an agent of white supremacy. Unfortunately for those poor, unfortunate, unemployed souls, because, you know, they're unemployed right now. Well, technically, you know, Tim Coon Scott, he's not. He's a senator, but he's not being employed in the Trump administration. Even dumb ass Marco Rubio got Secretary of State, my lord. But to me, this is all interesting revelations. As I just ran through the gambit here, he hit all of his anti-black talking points perfectly, I would say. But here you are being shown the door. I would call you a used condom, but we all know from Stormy Daniels' book, Trump doesn't like to use condoms. To MAGA, Vivek was nothing more than a token. The model minority narrative was dangled in front of him like a carrot, and he did. But let's be real, they never respected him. MAGA's whole game is about weaponizing people like Vivek, like Byron Donald, like Tim Long Gums Scott, like Candace Owens, to push an anti-immigrant agenda or an anti-black agenda while pretending it's all about meritocracy. Spoiler alert, it's not. It was all about cheap labor and exploiting H-1B visa holders. The MAGA base, a club of delusion. Let's visit reality just for a little moment here, shall we? MAGA was never about unity. It's a club for the entitled and the delusional. They spent years feeding certain groups, Indians included, the lie of the model minority. You're better than those lazy Negroes, they said. And y'all that shit up with a soup ladle. But when Trump's policies came for immigrants, everyone learned the hard way what we, black people, what we've been saying all along. When he says illegals, the Latinos and Latinas, when Donald Trump was saying illegals during the campaign, he meant you, okay? When he was talking about illegals to the Palestinian movement and the Arab group movement, he was talking about you. And the Indians, I don't care how much money you have, you're not going to buy your way into white supremacy, okay? He meant you. Unfortunately, some of these people are confused, okay? These groups are confused. They think that they have imported the racism that they have against black people in their countries here, and that puts them on par with white supremacy here in the United States. And white people said, we not going, okay? You going, okay? The chickens, or rather the Leopards, came home to feast, and Vivek became their next appetizer. Running for governor, a long shot, okay? So now Vivek is running for governor of Ohio. I'm sorry, let me clarify. His consolidation prize, his second runner-up prize, is to run for governor of Ohio. That sounds more fitting. The same state where immigrant communities have been targeted by hate groups emboldened by Trump's rhetoric. The same state where black and immigrant populations are still recovering from the policies he supported. Vivek's pitch that he's the outsider who will shake things up. Ohio is a state with a significant black population that hasn't seen a Democratic win in years. And let me tell you, his odds are slim to none when you couple that with the MAGA crowd who are adamant about keeping their club, whites only. But nothing is impossible, as in the last 5 presidential elections, Democrats won twice with Obama, both times, mainly due to black turnout. And the Republicans won Ohio 3 times, and all 3 times were due to Trump, mainly due to a lack of black turnout. Notice the trend here. MAGA might tolerate you as long as you are useful, but they won't let you lead their movement. And black voters, look, we've seen through the pandering, okay? It's a no-go over here, okay? And when MAGA in Ohio find out that your parents, Vivek, were illegal immigrants at one point, and you were born as what MAGA would love to call an anchor baby, the irony is delicious, isn't it? The very policies he supported would have come for him first. But let's dig a little deeper, because Vivek, it's being reported that he stepped down from his role as co-leader of President Donald Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, to pursue a gubernatorial campaign in Ohio. Okay, we know that part, but his departure follows internal tensions within DOGE, particularly with his co-leader Elon Musk, and criticism over his lack of involvement in key tasks. Well, that's interesting. It sounds like they're calling you lazy in that. See, I think Vivek read a little bit too much in the co-leader part. He was really maybe the secretary, or, he's the person that's supposed to do all of the work while Elon Musk gets credit. That's what Elon Musk has been doing his entire career. I don't understand why Vivek thought that would change. But regarding the term civil war within the Trump administration, recent reports suggest internal conflicts among factions tensions, notably between tech industry allies like Musk and Ramaswamy, that's your MAGA tech, and more traditional elements of the MAGA movement. Those are your white supremacists, basically. These tensions have surfaced over policy disagreements such as differing views on the H-1B visa program, leading to the civil war within the MAGA base. And, I don't understand why people could be unclear about that, but let's go back down memory lane. In December 26, 2024, post on X, formerly Twitter, Ramaswamy argued that American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, suggesting that this cultural trend contributes to a lack of competitiveness in the global market. He further stated that the reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over native American, quote-unquote, isn't due to innate American IQ deficit, but because of cultural factors. Ramaswamy emphasized that a culture celebrating figures like the prom queen over the math Olympiad champion or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. These comments have elicited strong reactions from various quarters. Former Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley responded by asserting that there is nothing wrong with American workers or culture, advocating for investment and prioritization of American talent over foreign workers. So Ramaswamy's remarks have ignited a broader debate about the balance between fostering domestic talent and utilizing foreign expertise, particularly in the context of the H-1B visa program, which allows U.S. companies to employ foreign workers in specialty occupations. This discussion underscores the ongoing tensions between promoting domestic workforce development and leveraging global talent to maintain technological and economic competitiveness. This is not about being competitive. This is not about a lack of talent in the U.S. It's, like I said before, it's about exploitation of H-1B visa program holders. Yes, they may pay them, $100,000 plus. It'll never be more than $150,000, but they work excessive hours. And if they complain, if they don't work the hours that they're required to work, which is going to probably be about 100 plus hours a week after their normal 40-hour shift, they're going to get fired and immediately deported. That's how the H-1B visa program works, and he knows it. So he's even okay with the exploitation of people who look like him, people from his country. Well, there's that. The bigger picture, there's a lesson here about power dynamics and identity. MAGA and spaces like it thrive on creating hierarchies. Who's in, who's out, and who gets to feel superior for a moment. But the moment you step out of line or speak the truth, they'll eat you alive. They are very clear as to the terms and conditions. As soon as Vivek violated those terms and conditions, they deported him from their movement, and Trump quickly followed suit, excommunicating him from his administration. The leopards will always eat their own. Vivek, like so many others before him, thought he could outmaneuver a system built on exclusion, but systems like MAGA don't care how hard you tap dance. They don't care how hard you work. They don't care how hard you hate and speak against black people. When they're done with you, they'll toss you aside without a second thought, just like Vivek over here. So let's not romanticize these systems or the people they elevate. Vivek's downfall isn't surprising. It's a cautionary tale. In conclusion, be careful about the tables you're invited to, especially the ones you're invited to sit at, because sometimes you're not the guest, you're the main course. But hey, the leopards are full now for the moment. Who's next on the menu? My money's on Steve Bannon. Well, it looks like our time is up. I thank you for making the time to go through it to the end with me. Like, share, and subscribe, please, and thank you.